I'm not shaking my head because the Mariners won. I'm not shaking my head because, they only scored 2 runs. I'm shaking my head because I have to record this thing again because I forgot to plug my microphone in. This will be a shorter one. Sometimes when I say this will be a shorter one, these end up being 15 minutes. That will not be the case today. Mariners win 2-1. They improve to 49-41 on the season, and they take the first of the 3-game set against the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll go over the scoring plays. Not a whole heck of a lot of them. Mariners get 2 1/3 on a Luke Raley double that scores Julio and Big Dumper. And in the 6th inning, Kevin Kiermaier hits a home run off of Luis Castillo to make it 2-1. That's it. That's all. That's all there is. Terrific Beastie Boys song, and also pretty accurate description of this game. We always start with the negatives, the bad things that we saw in the game when they win. And there's not a whole heck of a lot other than the fact that the collective offensive effort here wasn't great, obviously. You scored 2 runs. You were very close to scoring none. Very, 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 very close to scoring none. We'll talk about that in a second. But Mitch Garver really struggled. Ty France did get a hit, but wasn't great. The little blooper, but, I don't want to harp on it too much. Dominic Canzone wasn't good. 0 for 4 with the strikeout. He did hit some balls hard, but, you got to get hits. And he didn't get any hits. He struck out 13 more times. Kevin Gausman was really good and a pitcher that was due to have a start like this, to be honest with you. It certainly helps when you're facing the Seattle Mariners because of how much they strike out. But I have to be honest, as I watched this game, as I watch all of them, I didn't feel like it was a horrible offensive effort. Now, the results are what they are. I actually saw some decent offensive efforts today. We'll talk about them in the positive section. Only other negative is, come on, Minnesota. I know that they almost ended up winning that game, but come on. Mariners have won 2 games in a row and have gained 0 ground. Bummer. It's not a bummer. Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Awesome stuff, of course, for the Mariners, the Seahawks, the Kraken, the Storm, the Sounders, Huskies, Cougars. But the best part about it all is not just that you get all that great stuff. It's that you can save 15% by using MotleyWAP15 at checkout. You enter that code. It takes 15% off your order. It's a great deal from great people. I love Simply Seattle. I think you love Simply Seattle too. And if you haven't used it yet, go use it and find out how much you're going to love Simply Seattle. MollywWAP15. A link in the description to make it nice and easy for you. Cal Raley clearly just hates Canada. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have to love Canada, but you should. It's fine. But I sure appreciate the effort he has against that team. He just kills them. Reaches 3 times today, scores a run, scorches a single. Awesome to see hard contact from him. He's such an important part of Seattle's offense. Everything Cal Raley does. He's a huge part. People often talk about what Julio does is where the Mariners go, and I don't 100% disagree with that. I mostly agree with it. But I think it's the honest answer is it's what Julio and Big Dumper do. They're the keys to this team. When they're playing well, the Seattle Mariners look like a legitimate playoff contender, better than playoff contender. They look like a team that could do some damage in the playoff. I'm not going to say World Series contender, but when they're at their best, they're really good. And unfortunately, too often this year, the results just haven't been nearly good enough. JP Crawford gets on 3 times. That on-base percentage is climbing. Great to see. Luke Raley drives in the 2 runs, just misses a double. Just misses it. A fantastic play in the Toronto outfield. I forget who it was at this point because I'm tired and because I had to record this again. Dylan Moore got on a couple times. Josh Rojas got on a couple times. They draw 5 walks. They get 8 hits. They just really couldn't come up with a big hit outside of Raley's big 2-run double. And that was enough. That was enough in part because the bullpen was really good today. 2 1/3 innings of shutout baseball. Voth gets the strikeout. Ryan Stanek has looked fantastic, and Andres Munoz was good again. Doesn't get any strikeouts, but all 3 outs on the ground. 1.54 ERA. And yes, I know we're talking about reliever ERA, and we're talking about how flawed that stat is. But he's looked the part, to say the least. Not quite as dominant after this back thing, but the results, it's tough to argue with him. It's real tough to argue with him. I want to talk about Stanek in particular, who was fantastic and really has been, minus the outing against Minnesota, pretty darn good. In fact, I'm feeling so much more confident in what Ryan Stanek has done for the Seattle Mariners lately that if I was Justin Hollander and Jerry DiPoto, number one, I wouldn't have this silly show. And number two, I would be less concerned about making moves into the bullpen, especially if Gregory Santos can come back and in the second half of this year be even a smidgen of that arm. Now, you have to, a lot of what you're going to do at the deadline, I think, is going to be determined by how Santos looks, of course. That's a pretty obvious point. But the way Munoz is pitching, the way Stanek has pitched, on top of Austin Voth, and, Trent Thornton's giving you some good stuff as well. Taylor Sassetto is far from abhorrent. I don't think it's as necessary. I'd still go get one more bullpen arm, but I don't think you have to be as committed to that as I thought you would have a month ago. And that's good news. That's good news. And a lot of that credit goes to Ryan Stanek because, in particular, his four-seam fastball has just looked so flipping good. And splits look good too. But, man, the improvement that he's shown as we've gotten deeper into the year, it's massive. Massive, massive development. Good for you, Ryan Stanek. And we're kind of burying the lead here, but Luis Castillo. Wow. I mean, in terms of just pure stuff, on top of the results being really good, takes a no-hitter into the 6th inning before he leaves the ball up to the ever so handsome Kevin Kiermaier. But for those first 5 innings in particular, I don't think I've seen a starter look better than Luis Castillo. And that is not an insult to some of these other starts we've seen. To say we've seen some dominant efforts from Seattle Mariner pitchers this year, including some from Castillo, is quite the understatement. But those first 5 innings were spectacular. Spectacular. And for the most part, that's what he's done this year, particularly at home. And, I get it. I get the concerns about not pitching very well on the road. Looking back on those starts, there's just a couple of pitches that he just misses on. But the results are the results. And against better teams on the road, Luis Castillo has struggled this year. But at home, I don't think you can say enough good things about him. Let me make sure this isn't a message from Luis Castillo. It was not Luis Castillo. I just don't think I can overstate how good he was today. I mean, you take a look at the overall numbers, a 3.72 ERA, meh. And the strikeout to walk isn't as dominant as some other guys. But the eye test for Castillo tells me I have all the confidence in the world in him. And today was a good example of why. So you get the win. You've won 2 in a row. I talked about it yesterday on my very short 4th of July video that I think the Mariners need a sweep. And you're 1/3 there. Whoa, living on a prayer. I don't think I'll get a copyright strike for that one. What's the matchup tomorrow? I do believe it is George Kirby going up against, I don't think it's somebody very good for some reason. It's not. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Emerson Hancock tomorrow up against Uriel Rodriguez, who has good stuff, but should win that game. Should at least win this series, but I really think they need a sweep. Just getting that sweep, having a 4-2 week, and going on that road trip to begin next week, the final road trip of the first half. Going in with, I don't want to say momentum because momentum is such a silly word in sports sometimes, but going in feeling good. Do it for me. I'll feel good about it. I'll feel good about it. Oh, I felt really good about Luis Castillo tonight. He's just been a favorite of mine for a long time, and seeing him succeed for the Seattle Mariners over the last 2.5 seasons, a lot more often than not, has been a lot of fun. Wish they'd score more runs for him, and I wish he'd pitched a little better in the last few road starts, but it's tough to complain too much. And you know what? If you really don't want me to complain, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I so appreciate the support. It's been awesome. We'll be back tomorrow with another banging video. I don't know what I'm doing. And kids, remember to plug in your microphone. Yeah.